Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial. Today we're going to look at the Pumpkin and Melon module for the one chunk fully automated farming complex. Now, as with the other modules, this can be built either at the top or anywhere else in the farm. It doesn't have to be at the top. Building it at the top is slightly easier, which I'll explain later. But it can be built anywhere. It doesn't have to be at the top. And of course, it can also be built standalone as well. It doesn't have to be included in the farm. It can be built as a separate farm if you want it to be. So I'll stick a list of the ingredients that you're going to need on the screen now. So pause the video if you need to. Right, so now to start with, we need to identify the front of the farm, which you probably have done. So we'll get to the front of the farm, and then we need to identify the center of the farm, the block that runs directly down the middle of the farm, where all the goodies go down. And then we need to grab ourselves some compressed ice. We'll just stick a block of ice in there to start with, just so we know where the center is. And then we need to run a line of compressed ice from the front. That's the front. So one block in from the front down to the center, missing the center out. And then we need to run another line of compressed blocks, leaving 3 spaces at the back. You need to leave those 3 spaces for a reset switch, which we'll look at in a second. Now we need to grab ourselves some solid blocks. Put a temporary block down there. And then run a line of solid blocks all the way down from the front to the back. And we need to do that twice. We need to run 2 lines of blocks down there. Okay, look, like that. And then you want to do the same on the other side. So stick down a temporary block. Line of blocks. You are going to be able to see these from outside. If you put glass on the front, like we are going to do, you are going to be able to see these blocks. So make them a nice block. Now grab yourself some torches. This is why you need compressed ice. Grab yourself a few torches and just throw down some torches on the bottom, just to prevent even spiders from spawning down there. Although they can't break the farm, they're just annoying. You don't want them. Now we need to grab ourselves some dirt, and we need to start putting some dirt down. So stick yourself down a temporary block, and then do 3 blocks of dirt behind it. So you've got your compressed ice on the bottom. The next level up, you've got 2 solid blocks, and then the 3rd level up, you've got your dirt, and you need to run this as with these, you need to run this all the way down from the front to the back. And you need to do the same on the other side. Temporary block, 3 dirt, run it from front to back. Okay, so now you're left with that. What you need to do now is grab yourself some redstone. So you need to grab yourself an observer, or I think each side takes 8 observers. You'll need 16 sticky pistons and 8 repeaters for each side, and that's so you'll need 8 observers on that side, 8 observers on that side, 16 sticky pistons that side, 16 that side. If you build another level, you'll need to use the same. So first of all, go to any side. We'll go to the right hand side to start with. Count 2 blocks in and put a sticky piston on the back of the dirt. So 1, 2 sticky piston facing backwards, facing to the right. Here's your front of your farm. Sticky piston facing to the right. Miss a block, put a sticky piston. Miss a block, sticky piston. Miss a block, sticky piston. Miss a block, sticky piston. Miss a block. You guessed it, sticky piston. Now, if you're in survival, to make it a little bit easier, you need to put grab yourself the observer, stand on your sticky piston and crouch, and then put your observer behind and above the sticky piston. So jump onto the sticky piston and crouch and put down your observer. Then you need to pop round the front and put another sticky piston on top of the sticky piston at the back, but this time facing the observer. So we want these sticky pistons facing towards the farm. So now you're left with something that looks like that. Sticky piston facing off to the right, sticky piston above it facing off to the left, and an observer with the, yours might have a smiley face on it, mine doesn't because of my texture pack, but you want your smiley face pointing towards the farm. That's the part that activates when something goes in front of it. This is the part that the redstone signal comes out of when the front is activated. So redstone, smiley face. Now grab yourself another temporary block, put a temporary block off that sticky piston, and then your permanent block. On top of that block, you want an observer facing upwards. On top of that, you need a solid block, and then you want a solid block there. So you need to form that shape. Solid block, solid block, solid block at the top, observer in the middle pointing upwards. And then to pull a signal out of that block, you need to put a repeater there on 2 ticks. Now that needs to be on 2 ticks. If it's only on 1, that observer is going to pop out and stay out. So it needs to be on 2. Now, I'm going to grab a pumpkin and I can show you exactly what this does. So you've now got, or you will have, pumpkins planted there and there, so they'll grow into the center, and that'll be detected by the observer, which won't power that piston, it'll power that piston. So that piston will then, because it's a 1-tick pulse, it'll shoot out and grab that block and pull it back, which is going to update that observer, which is going to update that block, which is going to cause that piston to fire, which causes that observer to fire, which causes that piston to pop out the observer. Now, the reason we need this on 2 ticks, if it was on 1 tick, it would pop out the observer and leave it there. Probably demonstrated actually. 1 tick. Because of the mechanics of a sticky piston, if it receives a 1-tick pulse, it's going to pop out but not pull the block back in again. And because we need the observer pulled back in again for the pumpkins to grow again, we need that to be on 2 ticks. Like that. So now when something grows in front of it, the observer is going to pop out and cause the pumpkin to break. Perfect. So we need to do that all the way down now for the rest of them. So grab yourself temporary block, observer on top, block on top of that, block down to the side of it, and then a repeater on 2 ticks. Temporary, permanent, observer facing upwards, block, repeater on 2 ticks. Once more, temporary block, permanent block, pop that one out, observer, block, repeater on 2 ticks. So hopefully you've got it by now. So now, anytime something grows in front of them, that's going to pop out and break the fruit, break the vegetable. Are they fruits? Melons, pumpkin. I don't know whether they're fruits or vegetables. I'm sure you can sort me out on that one. So I'll just quickly do the rest of them, and then we'll see where we are. Okay, so now we've got one side done. we need to do exactly the same, only mirrored on the other side. Okay, so now you're left with that. Now we need to start putting some water in at the bottom. So what you need to do to start with, we can, while we're building this, we can pop that out. Pop the center one out now. This will affect your farms down the bottom. Some of your farms, your carrot and potato farms, at this stage will stop working. So if you're going to be doing this for any length of time, or you want to start it and then come back to it later, put a block over the top of there. And otherwise, your farms, your potato and your carrot farm at the bottom, they're going to stop working because of how they work. But we don't want to be messing about trying to break blocks out once this module of the farm is built. So you're just going to have to compromise at the moment, and you'll lose a few carrots and potatoes. However, it's going to make it easier to get rid of that block later. So pop that block out. You probably need to pop a couple of blocks in there as well. Sorry, I missed these to start with. That's going to stop anything from landing on that shelf. So fill that gap in, fill the two gaps in at the side there. So now you've just got a straight shoot all the way down. Now go to the front of your farm and put a line of blocks like that. And we're going to put some water in there and do the same at the back. Now before we put the water in, we need to stick in a fence gate. Now if you're building this, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think, if you're building this at the very top of your farming complex, you can get away with putting glass panes here. But if you're building it halfway down and you're having another farm above it, you need to put fence gates here, because if you use glass panes here down the center, anything that falls down from the top potentially will land on the top of the glass pane and it won't go down your farm. So you are going to need fence gates, but they're ugly. So if you're building this at the top and you can get away with it, use glass panes. But I'm going to use fence gates so you can see how and why they work. So you can't put a fence gate down also on top of air. You need to put it down on top of a solid block. So you need to put a temporary block down there, grab yourself a fence gate, and then pop yourself down the fence gate and then pop out the block underneath it. You need to open that fence gate, obviously. You can't have it closed, otherwise it may as well be a solid block. Now grab yourself some water and pop the water in the trough. So now anything that goes in there going to go down to the front, down to the middle, sorry, and then fall down the center of your farm, which is exactly what we want to happen. Perfect. Now we need to build up the wall from the outside. So grab yourself your solid blocks and just build up a wall, 2 blocks high, all the way around your farm. And I know I said 2, but it needs to be 3. Sorry. Okay, so now we're left with that. So we're getting somewhere now. Now we need to put some, the next stages are putting some water on here, which is going to serve 2 purposes, and we need to put panes of glass down the center, down here. So I find the easiest way to do that is to put yourself some solid blocks there. You may as well go, actually cover all of the dirt. Then grab yourself some panes of glass. We're using the light grey stained glass again. And then run your light grey stained glass all the way to the center, to where the fence gates are. Now, as I said, if you want this to be, if you build this on the top, you can cover this entire row with glass. All of this, all the way up, can be panes of glass. But if it's on the middle or at the bottom, you do need the fence gate in the middle. So to put the fence gate on top of another fence gate, you need to crouch, put it on the top of that. If you're a little OCD like me, you might want to make sure that the fence gates are all facing the same way, which is perfectly fine. And grab yourself some more glass. Then, if you sort of see the hitbox there, if you crouch and highlight the hitbox of the fence gate, you can put it on the end, on the side. Sorry, and then you need to run the panes of glass all the way from one side to the other. So now you have glass running to the centre, and you've got your fence gate, which allows stuff to fall down the middle, and then you've got more glass panes down the end. Now, hopefully you've got yourself a infinite water source close by, because you're going to need quite a bit of water, and you're also going to need a hoe. So grab yourself your trusty hoe. Can't do any gardening without a hoe. And what we need to do now is we need to hoe the ground. In order for pumpkins and melons to grow efficiently, they need to be next to hydrated farmland. They don't have to be. They will grow on completely barren land in the middle of nowhere. But if you want them to grow efficiently, you need them to be near farmland that's hydrated. So to do that, and the easiest way to do that is to use water. Obviously, it makes sense, doesn't it? Hydrate, use water. But there's a knack to doing it. If you were to suddenly do this with all of the farmland, there's a very good chance that by the time you get back to the beginning and start putting your water down, some of them are going to be turning back into normal dirt. Yeah, there you go. It's already starting over there. And what you don't want to be doing, once you've put the water down, you're going to be putting the water down on these front dirt blocks here. What you can't do is, if you put the water down, then you can't, after that, farm the dirt underneath. So you need to farm the dirt first and then put the water down. I know you're getting it. I'm probably making this sound harder than it is. Grab yourself your water bucket. Grab yourself a hoe. Count 5 blocks in from the front. We'll start at the front. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turn and then farm that dirt so it turns into farmland, and then put a bucket of water over the top of it. Now that's because of how the water's flowing there. That is now hydrating all of that farmland, all of that dirt is now hydrated. So now you can go ahead and farm all of the dirt, and you don't have to worry now about that turning back into turning back into dirt, because it's hydrated from the front, which is fantastic. Now grab yourself your water bucket again and completely cover all of the front blocks with water, like that. And because of the mechanics of Minecraft, the water's going to try and it'll go to the lowest level. It just works like that. So don't worry about it coming over the sides or anything, or going backwards. It'll always fall off the block first rather than going to this block on the same level. So it'll do that. Now hopefully you understood that. We'll do it again on the other side, but hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. So count 5 or 6 blocks in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter exactly how many blocks in. I mean, you could probably go 8 blocks in because of how water flows. We'll try that, shall we? We'll get to the centre block. We'll hoe it and put some water on top of it. Yeah, and the water's going to spread out enough so we can now hoe all of these blocks without worrying that it's going to be turned back into dirt. So that's now going to turn into hydrated farmland, which is perfect, which is just what we need for pumpkins and melons. As I say, it's not what you need. It just makes them grow more efficiently. So now stick yourself down your water on top of the farmland. As I mentioned earlier, the water will automatically try to get to the lowest point as quick as possible, so it won't flow off anywhere else. You don't have to worry about it ruining your redstone. So once you've put the water down, you're left with that. Now grab yourselves your pumpkins, or your melons, or both. Or your pumpkins and melon seeds, I should say. And grab yourself some bone meal, if you can. If you've got any bone meal knocking about, then use it, because it's just going to speed everything up. So we'll put pumpkins on the right-hand side of the farm, on this side. So you need to plant your pumpkins on the blocks in between your observers. You want your fruit or veg or pumpkins or whatever they're called to grow in front of the observers. So you need to put your seeds in the gap on either side, like that, and then just throw a bit of bone meal on top of it for them to grow. If you don't have any bone meal, it's no biggie. I mean, it'll grow eventually, just going to take a little bit longer. And now we need to do the same on the other side using the melons. Perfect, so now we've got pretty much a pumpkin and melon farm. If you only wanted one level on it, then that would suffice, that would be it. We'd just cover the top now with glass, and that would be the farm. But we're just going to stick another level on there now. You can stick as many levels on as you want. I mean, if you want to build 50 levels of pumpkin and melons, and you've got the resources to do it, you're never going to be short of a few pumpkins and melons if you do that. Right. Now what you need to do is grab yourself some carpet. Should have done this quite quick, actually, before I started telling you all about building it all the way up to the sky. Grab yourself a carpet, because we don't want the pumpkins or melons to be growing backwards into that space. Just like that. So you need to put some carpet behind the back, and you need to farm that again. Put the carpet on top of the farmland behind the back of the plant. And you need to do that before the pumpkins start growing backwards. If it does, it's going to flatten the farmland. You need to get your hoe out, farm it again, and then put yourself a bit of carpet down. And what that does is it keeps the farmland as farmland, but it stops the pumpkin from growing onto it, because it can't grow onto the carpet. So find your fruit, your plant, and put a bit of carpet behind the back of it. And as I say, do this reasonably quickly, because you don't want to be messing around, chopping out fruit or pumpkins and melons once they've grown backwards. It doesn't matter that these are going to be turned into dirt. You just can't help that. You don't want to be running around farming the dirt every time something grows, so they will turn into dirt. And there's nothing you can do about that. But the rest of it will now stay as hydrated farmland because of that water there. And this water also acts as a little conduit to get the pumpkins and melons into the centre, onto the packed ice and down the centre of the farm. Okay, so now we've got that. Now before we build the next level, we need to stick ourselves, look at that. Sometimes that will happen, and again, it just happens. We can mitigate that a little bit by putting some glass over the top of it, which we'll do in a second. But that will happen. Hopefully, the next time something grows on there, the piston's going to push it out into the water. That's going to group together and take it with it. So you're not going to lose too many. But grab yourself some glowstone lamps, glowstone. I was going to call them glowstone torches then, but it's glowstone. And then you need to stick a bit of glowstone on top of every one of those pistons. And this is just going to add a bit of light and allow these fellas to grow overnight. Okay, so now you've done that, grab yourself some solid blocks, build up the front of your farm a little bit. Then it depends on whether or not you want to design on the front of your farm as to how much glass you put on the front. You don't have to put any glass at all if you don't want to, but I just like looking into my farm. So put yourself some blocks there, glass or solid, up to you. Then grab yourself see-through blocks if you want to see into your farm. Like that. And then using the same blocks, you need to put a line of glass above the observers and above the pumpkins and melons. Now, if these were solid blocks, the pumpkins and melons wouldn't grow, because they won't grow with a solid block above it. But because they're glass, they will grow. And then at this end, you want to stick down some solid blocks. Now, hopefully that glass will stop the pumpkins or melons from popping upwards when they grow. There's pretty much only one direction they can go in, and that's forwards. That's into the water chute. So that glass is hopefully going to stop them from popping up and landing on top or landing behind. So again, glass above your observers and your plants. All the way to the back. See, there's one that's just dropped there. Hopefully that'll grow again, and we'll be able to see this working before the end of the tutorial. And then this is the back of the farm, so you need to put solid blocks all the way down the back. There's going to be a little bit of redstone here, which you're probably not going to want to see from the front. Okay, so now we've done one level, we've done the bottom level. Before we start doing the next level, we need to put in the reset switch. It's a reset switch that fires every day, and every so often you'll find a melon, or I have found in the past, a melon or a pumpkin will grow. It'll get shot out, but the one next to it will grow that quickly that the observer won't update, and then it'll just sit in front of the observer block, and nothing will happen. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to make it happen so you can see. Grab myself a pumpkin. There you go. So if it happens quick enough, the observer doesn't update, and the problem with that is now nothing's going to happen. That observer will never fire again. And after a week or so, they'll all get filled up, and then your farm's going to stop working, and you're going to be wondering why you're getting no fruit down the bottom, and it's because of this. So we need to stick in a reset switch. Now you can stick in a manual switch if you want to. If this is on one level, then you can just stick a button and some repeaters, and then just press a button as and when you need to. But if you're building this quite large, quite high, you are going to need an automatic system in place, which is what we're going to build now. So get to the front of your farm, get to the back of your farm, sorry, your front is over there, this is the back of your farm. You need to grab yourself some blocks, and you need to put some blocks down. It's probably just as easy to show me. You need to put some blocks down there, which are sort of next to that piston, and you want to do that in between every one of these blocks. Sometimes, if there's not a block there to place it against, you're going to have to put a temporary block there and then another block next to it. But you want these blocks to be, well, there. I can't really. They need to be pointing into the block that's underneath the repeaters. And then you need to put a repeater facing towards the front of your farm on top of each one of those blocks. Like that. So now when we put a signal through this first repeater, we'll grab a button just to show you. Grab a button. Once you put a signal through that repeater, it's going to cause all of them to fire. And we're going to attach that to a daylight sensor. So every morning or every evening, depends on whether or not you want it to happen in the morning or the evening. Every morning, it's going to fire using a monostable circuit. And any melons or pumpkins that have grown in there during the day that haven't been spat out are going to get spat out. So we need to do the same on this side. Grab yourself solid blocks, find the block underneath the repeater. So temporary block if you need to, put a block down there. Sometimes there's a block there for you to put it against, which is fine. If there isn't, you're just going to have to put a temporary block down. Block there, and then put yourself down a repeater. Like that. So now you need to grab yourself a bit of dirt, grab yourself some blocks, do a line of blocks running all the way from one side to the other. And we're going to link those together in a second. So you've got your line of repeaters running down one side to reset the left hand side or the right, depending on which way you're looking. And then you've got the line of repeaters leading into the block underneath the repeater down the other side to reset that side as well. So now you need to find yourself the center of your farm. Just pop those out so you can see. So that's obviously the center of your farm. You need to pop yourself down a blob of redstone dust like that, and on top of that you're going to need a daylight sensor. Grab yourself a daylight sensor and put it directly above it. Now this is going to be mirrored on either side, so we'll do the right hand side first. On the block next to the redstone dust, you need to pop that out and you need to put yourself down a sticky piston facing upwards, and that'll be activated, and you want to put a block on top of that. That's your monostable circuit. And then coming out of that you need a repeater and then a line of dust. Now if you've only got one level, that will do. That's all you need. But if you're building a second level, which we are doing, you're going to need to replace that bit of dust there with a block and put some dust on top of it. Okay, so we'll do that again. You need to pop out that block, sticky piston facing up with a block on top of it. You need a repeater on one tick coming out of there, and then some redstone dust, a block with dust on top of it, and then a line of dust running into that repeater over there. So now if we can simulate nighttime, everything's off, gets to morning, then that happens, which is perfect. So now you've got your reset system in. We're going to be putting slabs to do some kind of tower, some kind of redstone tower up the back. So bear in mind you are going to need some slabs on the back here. But that's the bottom level done. You can stick in those blocks that we popped out earlier on. Now the bottom level's done, and as you can see, you can't see any of the redstone at the back, so it's time to start on the next level. So for the next level, you need to grab yourself some more dirt, and then because you've put this glass on here, you can put the dirt straight on top of that glass. So run a line of dirt from the front to the back, or back to the front, whichever way you're doing it, and then do the same behind it. Pop round the front and do the same at the front. So you've got 3 layers of dirt now. 1 layer of dirt above the water, 1 layer of dirt above the pumpkins, and then 1 layer of dirt now above the redstone. The observers. Okay. Now you want to be building your wall up as you go, building the front and the back up as you go. And then it's time to start sticking in the redstone again. So you need to find the glowstone that you put down earlier. Grab yourself a sticky piston and put a sticky piston on top of your glowstone, facing backwards, facing towards the redstone stuff, whatever you'd call it. And then on top of that sticky piston, same as you did at the bottom, you need to put down another sticky piston facing forward, facing the plants. And then in front of your sticky piston, with your smiley face to the front, the activator part of your observer to the front, which means you're going to have to come around the back to put it down, you need to put yourself down an observer. Okay, now on top of this block, you don't need a temporary block now. You don't need to mess about putting temporary blocks down on the second level. On top of this block, this one there, you need to put a block. Okay, on top of that, you need to put an observer facing upwards. Now behind the back of this piston, same as the bottom, you need to put another block. Okay, and on top of the observer, you've guessed it, another block. And then coming out of that block, you need to grab yourself a repeater on 2 ticks, remember, has to be 2 ticks. Okay, like that. So that's the mechanism for the second level. So once more, top of your glass, line of dirt, behind the back of it, a line of dirt, and in front of it, a line of dirt. Sticky piston facing the redstone on top of your glowstone. And then, in survival, I don't know whether it's easier to put the observer down. It possibly is. Put the observer down before you put the piston down. But either way, you need an observer with the redstone facing towards this piston, and on top of that piston, you need another sticky piston facing the other way. So whichever way around you do it, it's entirely up to you. Whichever's easiest for you. So in fairness, it's not too difficult in survival either way. Let's quickly knock this off. Okay. Normal block on top of this block here. Yeah. This one. Observer on top of that. Block behind the back of the piston. Block on top of the observer. And a repeater on 2 ticks. Perfect, then grab yourself your trusty hoe and your bucket of water. And then you need to find yourself some slabs as well. You need to get yourself some slabs. I'm using quartz because it matches the rest of the build. You can use wood if you like. You can use bricks. Use what you like. It doesn't have to be quartz as long as it's a slab. Now you need to go to the front of your farm, and you need to put a slab that starts underneath the dirt. So you need a slab that's there. You need to do 2 of them. You need to do 2 slabs underneath the dirt, like that. Now this has to be a slab. It can't be a solid block. If it's a solid block, that happens. The pane attaches to the block, and that's going to stop things from falling down there. Not all of them, but some of them. So you just need to grab yourself a slab instead of a solid block, and you need to run the slabs all the way down from front to back. And you need to do the same on the opposite side. So dirt, the next block below, slab. Again, building up the front and the back walls as you go. Now grab yourself some panes of glass again, and you need to raise the panes down the middle of your farm. You need to raise these up as you're going. It's going to obviously stop the water from flowing across the top. And then grab yourself a fence gate and just build that up as well. Crouch and build that up. Again, if you want it to open the same side, just go around the other side and open it again. It'll always open away from you. And if you're like me, you'll want them open the same way. Like that. For goodness sake, crouch when you're here. If you fall down there, then you're bang in trouble. So always crouch when you're near the edge of a block. Now you need to grab yourself your hoe. Find the centre. And you just need to hoe the ground and put some water on top of it. And that water is now going to hydrate the rest of the dirt, so you can now grab your hoe and hoe the rest of the dirt. Okay, then grab yourself a bit of carpet. We'll use lime green this time. Put a bit of carpet in between the observers. Now remember, your plant is going to be there. That stops the plant from growing backwards. And the water at the front stops the plant from growing forward. So there's only 2 places it can grow. It can either grow there or it can grow there. And either way is perfect because the observer is going to pop it out. Now grab yourself the water again. And just throw down some water on the rest of these blocks at the front. So now you've got that. We need to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now you need to grab your pumpkins and your melons now. Oh, did we have pumpkins on the right, pumpkins on the left? I can't remember. Not that it's that important. So we need to grab ourselves some pumpkins, some melons, and some bone meal again. And you plant in between your observers. You don't want to be planting in front of your observers, otherwise the observer is going to pop out and it's going to break your plant. So always plant in between your observers so that the plant is going to actually grow in front of your observer. I know you know what I mean. I know you're not daft. And then over to the other side. See, if you do that by mistake, like I've just done, to show you really, if you try and grow something in front of the observer, it's going to pop out and ruin it. So you do need to grow it in between. And then bone meal the fella bone meal the bad boy. Look at that, it's already grown. Only just done it and it's growing already. Fabulous, we're nearly there. Seems like it's been a super long tutorial. For that I apologise. Okay, so now we need to put down some light, some glowstone. You can use jack-o'-lanterns if you want to. Maybe. I prefer using glowstone. And then you want to put some glowstone on top of those pistons. All the way down. And as I mentioned, this is going to just allow the fruit to grow overnight. Glowstone like that. Then grab yourself some glass. Building your walls up as you go, as I mentioned before. Grab yourself some glass and put the glass directly above the plant and the observer block. Solid block at the end. Okay, so on the other side, build the wall up a little bit. And get your glass and directly above the observer and the plant. Hopefully, as I mentioned, this is going to cause the pumpkins and the melons to be shot into the water and not anywhere else. It has to be glass, otherwise nothing's going to grow underneath it. Okay, so now we've got that. Very, very nearly finished. I can almost hear the big sigh. If you wanted to build another level, then just do exactly what we've just done there. Get yourself down some dirt, some slabs. Just follow the part of the tutorial we've just done. And you can build it as high as you want to go. Literally as high up to Y256. It can go as high as you want it to go. Now we need to extend this signal up to these blocks here. We need to put a block pointing into the block that's underneath the repeater, just the same as we've got it down here. We need to put this line of repeaters in here, this reset line. So we need to put a block there, and then blocks there, and if there isn't a block there to put it against, you need to put down a temporary block. Put a block down. Temporary block. Block down. Temporary block down. Okay, so you've now got blocks leading into... now you can put repeaters on those blocks, leading into the blocks underneath the repeaters. I hope I'm making sense, I really do. But these repeaters are going to fire that piston, which is going to reset everything if anything gets stuck on top. Hopefully it won't, but it could do. Then you need to run a line of blocks. There, and there like that. So you've got 3 blocks. And then next to it, you need to grab yourself a slab. And then here you need to put yourself a slab, just there. And then put some redstone dust leading up into that repeater. So now that the signal will now go over that block around to the bottom, and over that block and up to the top. And if you want to put another level on, you just need to ladder these up like that, and put redstone on top of them until you get to the level of the next line of repeaters, and then the next line, and then the next line, all the way up. But we're not going to be doing that today. We'll just do the other side. So grab yourself some solid blocks. Put a block there that's behind the back of the bottom sticky piston, leading into that repeater. Again, if you don't have a block there to put it against, put a temporary block down. Don't need one at the front. Repeaters. There, 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 and there. As a reset. And then 3 blocks in an L shape. And then underneath that, just here, is a slab. Redstone dust, redstone dust, redstone dust. Now hopefully, if I pretend it's dark, turn the light on, all of the blocks are going to activate, which is going to, as I said, get rid of anything that's grown on the observers that hasn't already been got rid of. Brilliant. Now we need to put a roof on this. Now it has to be a solid roof, because if it's not a solid roof, then light is going to be allowed to go straight down the middle of the farm, and it's going to break your carrot and potato farms. Let's see if I can see. Yeah, you see at the moment the carrots can grow on the back of those blocks, and if you remember from the other tutorials, those 3 blocks at the back where that farmer's standing there, they need to be unfarmable. They need to have a light level of 7 or below, and they'll never have a light level of 7 or below if this block here isn't covered, or all of this isn't covered. So we need to now cover the entire top of the farm, if this is indeed the top of your farm, with solid blocks. Okay, so now we've done that, let's just pop down and make sure the carrot farm's working again. Yay, brilliant. So the carrot farm, because there's now a light level of 7 or below on those particular blocks, the farmer can't plant on them, and you're starting to get carrots and potatoes again. Perfect. So now we just need to tidy it up a little bit. As I said, I've mentioned it a couple of times already, if this was the top floor of your farm, those fence gates could be swapped out for normal glass. For normal panes of glass, but if you're going to have another farm above it, then you need those to be fence gates. So now, just to tidy it up, pop round to the back. You need to put a couple of blocks in there. Over to the other side, a couple of blocks in there. Grab yourself some torches, because of mobs and flashing redstone. Put yourself down some torches. Just spam a few down, really. No right place to put them, no wrong place to put them. And now you need to put the back on your farm and the sides. Now, the sides can be anything you want. They can be solid, they can be opaque, they can be made out of leaves, whatever you like down the side of it. But on the back, you need a glass block next to this daylight sensor. That has to be a glass block or a pane. You're probably better off using a block though, because if you use a solid block there, that's going to stop that daylight sensor from working. So you do need at least a glass block there. If you want to put loads of glass blocks there, then that's great, that's fine, it's up to you. But you do need at least one, because if you completely block that off, it's going to stop working. So that block there, next to the daylight sensor, has to be glass. Then just fill the rest in with your block of choice. So once you've stuck the rest of the blocks in, apart from the clear one that you need at the back, that's what it looks like. That's your pumpkin and melon module for the one chunk farming system. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like, and if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. If you want to learn how to build the rest of this one chunk farming system, I'll put a link to all the other tutorials in the description below. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.